A very good afternoon, everyone. Hope you had a good lunch and a good networking session. May I invite everyone to sit as close as possible to the stage in the front so that we can successfully compete with the decibels outside. So we have come to the second initiative of the Ecosystem Day, the Nature SciCafe Asia 2017. Here to open the event, all the way from New York, is Chief Editor of Nature Biotechnology. Please welcome Dr. Andrew Marshall.
Okay, welcome everybody. Can you hear me there at the back? Because this is quite a challenging environment. So today, this afternoon, we're going to be concentrating a little more on the science. Yeah. So this is where we've been talking all this morning about the whole biotech ecosystem, and really none of this happens unless we focus on those investigators who are really doing the promising, innovative research. And this is what we do with Nature SciCafes. It's a program that we've been doing for 10 years now. We started in Boston, in the US, which is, at the end of the day, it's probably the easiest place you could possibly think of to try and do an event where you bring together promising young faculty who, can then network and talk to investors who are interested in commercializing innovative research. But we've been doing these events kind of all around the country, in the US, and we've been doing them in Europe, we did them in the UK, and now in its most recent iteration, we've come to here in Singapore. And in some ways, Singapore, like many of the nations here in Southeast Asia, it's a very challenging environment for any faculty who are thinking about, well, how do I take my research and take it out of the laboratory and turn it into a solution to an unmet medical need or a particular medical product. So, a little background, we started these events 10 years ago, as I said, in Boston. We did the events with a venture capital fund in Boston called Atlas Ventures. And Atlas is now, I would argue, kind of one of the most successful early stage funds in the whole world, yeah? And there are very few of these venture funds that really concentrate on early stage research. And I think you'll be hearing over the course of the afternoon how, that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, that faces any faculty that's thinking about translating their research here in Southeast Asia, in Singapore. How do you find those individuals who can support my research and also understand the types of timelines that life science commercialization really requires? And with Science Cafes, the idea of these events is slightly different from any other event that we do at Nature, and it's actually different from most other events that academic institutions also do for investors. So if you go around the world, you're probably familiar with investor days where the faculty get up in front of investors and they describe the research they're doing in the hope that the investors will then fund their research, maybe start a company. But I think a key, and this is really critical, a key part of translation that really is missed, and you really only understand if you kind of study how life science innovation occurs in Boston and San Francisco, is that the interactions between faculty, so the research world, and the world of investment happened very, very early on. So if somebody was to ask me, what's the difference between Boston and San Francisco, I would say, compared with the rest of the world, you know, there's great research going on everywhere. And there's, you know, there's companies, there's industry everywhere. But really, this question of how do you create an environment that's conducive to bringing research out of academia and into the commercial world, these interactions between faculty and the investment world have to start early on. It's like any other walk of life. And I'm sure Salvo, who you heard from early this morning, will be talking a little bit about this during his talk. So the plan of action today is Salvo is going to give a brief introductory talk about some of the Salvo thinks he's going to give a 1-hour talk, but he's going to give a brief introductory talk on some of the opportunities and challenges that there are in taking research out of the academic environment and translating that into something that will create a solution or a new product. And then we're going to go through 6 members of faculty who we've selected from Southeast Asia, and they're going to give very short talks. And then at the end, we're going to have another talk that will also give a different view from somebody who, like Salvo, has a very particular and unique perspective on the challenges that faculty face in taking life science research. And as you've heard this morning, life science research is unlike any other type of research. It's an incredible commitment. Nobody really knows, not even Nobel Prize. There was a question in the session today about how do you know whether something's going to work, you know, all the way in the clinic. Nobody knows. I would like to say, you know, I'm an all-knowing editor at Nature, and I can tell you which are the most which are the innovations that are going to lead to products, but nobody can tell because it's too early, there are too many unknowns. And so life science is a particular problem all of itself. And so with that, I'm going to transfer over to Salvo. So let me give Salvo. I met Salvo, I would say... So it's at least 5 years ago, and Salvo first talked at a SciCafe, like many of the faculty that we're going to hear today. But over the years, what I've really learned is Salvo's really not only kind of, you know, aspired to translate, but he's really thought about these problems and why they're so difficult. So I really hope that, you know, You'll listen to what he has to say, because there are very few really unique voices who have the experience that he has and have this big picture. So I'm going to transfer over to Salvo.
Okay. So good afternoon, and thank you for being here. The expectation has been brought very high, thanks to Andy. But I want to frame where we stand here. This morning was inspirational and educational, in my opinion, but the perspective was somewhat very logical. It was the perspective of industry and the perspective of the government supporting us. Now here you have, from me on, people who are coming from the trenches, people who are in the trenches, who are in the fight. So from detached, not as in a negative connotation, it becomes very personal. So what we're going to talk about is indeed a personal experience and the itinerary we share. So that's what I want to talk about today, is how to build the bridges within ecosystems and among ecosystems, because we need to think globally. So in terms of agenda, I would like briefly to get on the same page regarding what translational medicine here is, because there are too many different definitions, and I'm not saying that mine or ours is right, but we have calluses on our hands. We have done it. We will discuss also a little bit about translational medicine challenges from the standpoint of somebody who does it, and then we'll propose solutions. We're not here to whine. People who do things don't whine. They propose solutions, and that's the Eureka model. And I must say that Andy and others in this room have participated strongly in creating and developing this model. So first of all, what is translational medicine? We here just Google it or Wikipedia. It is the itinerary which goes from benchside to bed and vice versa. We can discriminate in T1, T2, T3. That's not real life. This is taxonomy done by nerds. In reality, translational medicine must be inspired by unmet medical needs. And the way I see it is the divide between the patients and the technologies which need to find and solve their problems. It is a gradient, it is a bridge which must cover what was used as a term, the valley of death, is this separation. So it's a dynamic, it is a creative, and it's an incredibly difficult enterprise. You need to know many things, and it's very easy that you can get lost. And you also need to be able to multitask. You cannot have just one knowledge and one specialty. You cannot know it all. But the challenge is to become aware of what needs to be done, of what you know and you're best at, and what you don't know and you don't know how to do. Seek help, build communities. That's what we want to do. And in many cases, what we think is of a fragmented itinerary, where there is the great mind which conceives the idea, and then progressively you need to figure out how to develop the idea, who to talk to, etc., etc. This is put in an optimistic fashion as a staircase to heaven. In reality, the issues are quite different. Very often, you end up like pulling against a wave which then runs on you. And this is exactly the challenge which we face as individuals if we want to make a difference, and if we want to share and prevent the mistakes which we did. Andy never made a mistake, which we can prevent and improve. So we created Eureka now 9 years ago. Andy is among actually the people who helped among the founders. And the challenges, I depicted before the stairway to heaven. And in reality, all these components are very much fragmented. And the main question, which was one of the questions from the audience today, is how do I know that this is worth the challenge? How do I know if my technology, my idea is druggable? Because that is the crucial question. Is it worth it? And nobody teaches this in medical school, in graduate school. You need to try, or you need to be lucky enough and fortunate enough to be part of an environment, of an ecosystem, where these questions have answers. So fragmentation is the main problem. Leads to inefficiency, cultural gaps, and to the need for a professional figure, a clinician scientist, who has experience in building bridges, in addressing unanswered questions. And this cannot be done as an individual, cannot be done as an individual university or an individual state. It needs to be done globally, and which means also we need to harmonize policies and even create policies in order to put patient and their need at the center. Now, I'm not some sort of communistic demon here. I'm just saying that we do need to frame the whole itinerary, what we do, toward the solution of a met need. Fame and fortune for the individual and for the companies come from this approach, in my opinion. All these problems lead, from the academic standpoint, to a waste in science. a lot of good ideas are not developed because the inventor does not know what to do, or because there is no funding to go on. And a lot of bad ideas take a lot and soak up resources. And there isn't really an objective method to define other than the shareholder, not the stakeholder, value in terms of deciding what the company wants, and opportunistic approaches in other ways. So we need to change a little bit what we are doing. So we started this institute, it's a non-for-profit foundation, and the vision is truly to develop translational medicine to address unmet medical needs. Is that what I just said? The mission is to create a community which is global and which has as objective the addressing of patients' needs. And the way we want to do it is by catalyzing globally education, research, and policy making into a cogent translational medicine enterprise which has no boundaries other than the limitations of our own abilities. We've done a lot of stuff, so this is not an eyesight test, don't worry. It's just to say that we have almost 10 years of history. We started by offering a course in international translational medicine in Italy, and we grew. Now this is a network worldwide, of which Duke US and Sing Health are partner, together with Stanford, the University of Miami, University of Utrecht, and University of Arizona. But we are negotiating with more. And we have done more than just giving a course. We have summer schools. We have a sale here on the other side. We have summer schools. We are creating e-learning courses. We are creating really a community worldwide. And that is where we stand today with the third Nature Science Cafe Asia, which is part of Eureka, because we believe that there is a very strong integration into objectives. So, what we have done for to date, we have had more than 1,000 patients, students involved in this initiative. 200 or more international leaders have contributed as faculty. They are contributing as faculty. This is not a hit and go event. It's not a show off and leave. It is a community which involves mentoring, which involves being profoundly involved. We have already academia, industry, and patient advocacy partners. 34 countries are represented in the network. And we have also looked for, can you please say, I'm sorry, this is very distracting. It's beyond what is acceptable. Can somebody tell them to lower the volume, please? Thank you. So we have looked also for metrics, objective metrics. We've asked that those ones who have participated, if they were satisfied, and the results were striking. Again, in an objective fashion, 85% of students said that they were able to apply what they learned, that their lives professionally have changed. 52% is a big number. So we can change lives, and together we can change the whole network and environment, which currently is negative. So we are happy? No, we are not happy, because we don't feel we are yet transformational. 1,000 is nothing in a global context. So Eureka 2.0, which is starting today, it doesn't know yet, will aim at creating an integrated network with a broader footprint to involve industry, patients' organization, and societal stakeholders. And the reason why we want to do that is because we'll be a stool with 3 different legs. We will be transformational by working on research, education, and by helping in policy making. If we create sufficient critical mass, we can be a think tank which can affect policies. And the presence here of government people who are very receptive to a dialogue is very, very encouraging. And we had them also this morning. So what are we talking about the ecosystem? There are a lot of things which we are doing, we have done, we keep doing, and others which we will do. And they range beyond just the certificate course. Have done and we are planning more seasonal schools. Those are monothematic, one-week events where we teach translational medicine in the context of rare diseases, of intellectual property, of translational pediatrics, and those will be held at our different continental hubs, so say Stanford, Singapore, Utrecht. We will complete an e-learning course which is available, will be available worldwide to those ones interested. We do rely a lot on mentoring. One thing I wanted to say, there is no question and answer in this whole session. Why? Because we hope that we can sit down there and talk one-to-one. There's nothing better than interaction. And it's a two-way thing. The teacher learns from the pupil. So let's talk on the side. And we really want to bring in more powerfully the patients, because they help in teaching what the needs are, but also they help shaping policies. If you think about this, just step for a second, and you look at something, an organization which is global, is a network, which has several major universities already in, which can offer all these things network-wide with a good quality control. It's almost obvious to think that this can be the foundation for an international master in translational medicine, which could be something intangible, which is a legacy as well. So this is one part. The other is that the ecosystem per se, by generating critical mass of thought and people, can provide a very effective think tank. And this is not a pie in the sky. It is something which is doable if we work together and we integrate our resources. We are already doing some of those things. You are sitting in one of those, and with nature blessing, maybe we can craft in a more impactful way in different hubs. Here in Asia, we are starting something which I think is really cool. It's a network where Singapore hubs as a high-tech and provides state-of-art care to patients in the surrounding areas, but we give also them apps. I'm giving an example where patients can enter their own data daily, and they give us samples. And if you repeat it these n times, all of a sudden you have a network where the distance between translation research and state-of-art care is abolished in places where there was none before. And this is something which we can do together, and this is an impactful idea. And the breadth and depth of the experience of the faculty can lead also to ability of consulting, policy making, etc. Eventually, being really ambitious, otherwise there's no fun, one could think that to start doing something equivalent to what is offered in Davos for economic policies. You have key opinion leaders meeting to address some aspects, in this case of biomedical research and translational research. So it's ambitious and varied, and of course it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it is a way to coalesce a lot of energy which right now is fragmented. So in terms of strength, we already have shown that we can reverse a model which is trite and which is not effective because there is a lot of waste, which is the old paradigm, and replace it with the patient-centered paradigm. We have a community which has a lot of breadth and depth. We are diverse. We have demonstrating capability of catalyzing critical mass, but we are not satisfied with where we are. We want to be transformational, and definitely we are committed. So, in the next 5 years, if we are successful, we can aim of helping being a global catalyst for the evolution of translational medicine from the initial stages to a more effective patient-oriented approach. And as I said, this is very personal. Not just me, but those ones involved. You. We have 6 people now talking about their own experiences and actually getting engaged into that. So what have I learned so far? Failure is to be expected. You fall and rise many times. You need to rise. I'm not saying to be stubborn. You need to fail early if your things don't work. But surrender is not an option. If you really believe in what you're doing, do it. Don't give up. One of the problems or things we love is that we love them. We don't let them go. And instead, we need to be happy in having our baby grow and eventually let the hand go and go far away. What does it mean? It means, as I said from the beginning, there is no one who knows it all. And there is a moment in which you need to realize that there are people who know more than you, and they will help your baby become an adult. This is one of the main problems in developing things. Don't work by yourself. It's heroic, but it's much more fun to work together with friends. And this is Bernd, he's the co-founder of Eureka, and is a brother in arms. And with this, I'm done. I just wanted to, this is the motto, Sing Health, but I think it's ingrained and carved in all our hearts. And I hope we can work together. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to launch straight into it.